Hello, welcome back. This is another Sunday school lesson. This time we're in 1 Corinthians 8 through 13, and it's titled, Ye Are the Body of Christ. So this is my second run through of it. I did the first one yesterday, and after it got done, I discovered that the audio picked up a lot of little clicks in it, or it would just stop and then go and stop and then go, and it was really annoying to listen to. So we are trying it again, and hopefully no problems. Kind of a pity, though. It was nice and rainy, and it just looked beautiful, so... Oh well, life goes on. Anyway, so once again, as I've said before, I love Corinthians. I love just the metaphors. Everything in Corinthians I think is just great. And so we'll start with the comparison, and this one seems quite appropriate to the lesson of us being the body of Christ, which Paul compared all of us to different parts of an actual human body. And, you know, what he means by that is that, or what he actually says is that, different parts of the bodies do different things. They have different functions, different abilities. We can't see with our ears, and we can't hear with our eyes. So the eyes see and the ears hear. And the fingers flex and lift and so on. We have, all of our body does different things, and it works together to make our body function as best as it can. And so when we lose, not even... I'm going to take it a step further, but when we lose, say, a limb, our body, it becomes... how we function changes, and we have to work around the lost limb. But even if we just lose the function of a limb, if, say, we can't walk, or we have difficulty walking, or something like that, we have to figure out ways to work around it. And the same is true in the church. When we lose members of the church, we have to figure out how to work around it. We have to figure out, how to function without all these members who used to do the previous work. And when members don't necessarily quit, but then just stop doing things in the church, if you have, the nice little old lady who doesn't bring cookies anymore, it may seem like a small thing, but, you get to church, you expect cookies, and suddenly there are no cookies. It's, it's a sudden challenge that you have to take on in church. I will admit I'm the guy who brings fudge to church every Sunday, and that's become very expected of me every time I go to church. Sometimes I feel like people don't like me but love my fudge, so... Nah. Anyway, we all have a function in church, whether we're called to a position in the church to do it, or whether we just, out of the kindness of our hearts, start to do something, and we end up being the one who does that something. That's how it always works in the church with the body. And if we lose someone for any reason, the church is less for the loss of one person. The church doesn't work as well, and, we become lessened. So it's an important lesson about keeping people in the church, but also about just being how important each of us are to the church. So if you ever feel like, I'm not that important, well, somebody appreciates something you do at church. So, good thing to keep in mind. Ooh, we might get the rain after all. Nice. Anyway, so Paul goes on in the lesson, and one of the great things that Paul says in this lesson that I absolutely really, really loved was he basically states that we will never be tempted beyond our own ability to resist that temptation. So God will never test us beyond our breaking point. He may test us right up to the breaking point, and it's not going to be easy. This life isn't meant to be easy, but it will ultimately be worth it, and we will never be tested beyond our capacity to endure. I believe I said it in a few lessons ago, is that somebody had said that, when we get beyond this life, we will look back and we will say, wow, it will seem so easy for what we gained in return, the reward we get in return. And, I'm just happy that it started raining again. I feel sometimes you just feel blessed when you're doing Sunday school lessons, and this is one of those times. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Love the rain. Anyway, so one of the things that we participate in at church is the sacrament. Now, different churches do it differently. My church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's prepared by the youth who have the Aaronic priesthood prepare the sacrament. So it breaks down like this. So it's passed out by 12-year-olds who are deacons. 12 and 13-year-olds who are deacons pass the sacrament. 14 and 15-year-olds who are teachers, that's the title they have, prepare it beforehand. So they go back, they make sure, they fill little cups with water, make sure the bread is ready, and then just set up the table to look nice. And then the priests, who are 16 and 17, break and bless the bread and bless the water, which is then passed by the deacons, as I said before. And that's each person, it's passed to each person. Each person has the opportunity to take it or not take it. It is very much in their own free will. And different churches do it differently. But that's how it's done in my church. And for the most part, sacrament is a very personal thing. It's renewing the covenants you have made with God. So it's very personal. It's between you and God. So whether you choose to take the sacrament, whether you don't choose to take the sacrament, that's between you and God. And really, it's a very personal thing. But it's also a unifying thing. Paul points this out, and I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but that's one of the things that unites us. Whenever we go to church, we are united by taking the sacrament. That may not be true for all churches, but certainly for my church, it is a uniting thing, and I think for many of them, it is a uniting thing. That we take the sacrament and we are united. Maybe not in just basically going through the same ritual each and every time and renewing our covenants. We are united because other people are going through the same ritual. And if we choose not to take the sacrament, other people have made that choice as well. And it unifies us. It brings us together, as one, knowing that we all go through the same thing every week. Every time we come to church, we all do the same thing. And that unifies us in the church. And it's, which is a very good thing. It brings us all together. So one of the things the lesson points out, this is in Corinthians 11, Paul starts talking about what people wear on their heads, about like head coverings and hairstyles and all kinds of things like that. Now, for the most part, what he's talking about are the coverings and hairstyles of the day, the ones that were either ritual or traditional or just the style of the day he's talking about. So a lot of people, or at least a few people I know of, read this and say, well, how can this doesn't really apply to us now, and they kind of dismiss it and look at it. But there's something very important that was brought up about it, and it's to do with married people, man and a wife married together, and it's basically it's once again unifying them into a family unit. So a married man and married woman, they are together. They are they're together, but they also should be united as the heads of the family, as the leadership of the family, to lead their children, to guide the family in doing the proper spiritual things, but also in doing basically just everything, and providing food, meals, and so on. They're united together in doing that, and that sort of unity, that's really the driving force of this lesson, is that we are united in what we believe, in how we support ourselves and our family. And it's no different for a married couple, because they're united. They teach their children spiritual things and physical things. They provide for them. They are united in taking care of their children and making sure the children turn out okay. And it is a very good thing to do that. And I think, having that sort of weekly tradition of going to church, of taking of the sacrament, of doing all that stuff, that gives children a stability in their lives. and having both parents in the home, have, as much as you can. Different situations vary, so I'm not criticizing anyone who's in a situation where both parents are in the home or their circumstances. That happens to many, many people. And so it's not a judgment on you by saying it's good to have that sort of unity or so on. But sometimes for work, sometimes because of a death or divorce or something like that, you don't have a complete family unit. And, I won't encourage people. Yep, I was right. There's another room back here. I won't encourage people to necessarily, go trying to figure out how to say what I'm trying to say. I won't if you're not ready, if you've been through a divorce or a death or anything like that, and you have kids, but you're not ready for another relationship as of yet, don't force it. Just relax, sit back, let God guide you in how to live and how to lead your life, and keeping up the tradition of going to church, of providing as much stability for your kids as possible. It is very important. And when you're ready, God will know and he will help you. And yep, that's pretty much my entire advice on that one. So when we get in lesson 2, let's see, Corinthians 12 and 13, we get essentially a very long list of the spiritual gifts we can receive in our lives, from merely believing to, complex spiritual gifts of tongues, gifts of, ability to speak a different language or do all those sort of things. And multiple places in many scriptures, not just the Bible, but, in the scriptures that my church uses, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, if I haven't mentioned the name of the church yet, what we do. That guy's so in the way. But there are other lists in the Book of Mormon, in, I believe, Doctrine and Covenants, has, long lists of different spiritual talents we can have. I'll go around. Some people. And they are wide and varied. It's not this list that we have in the Bible here, the list that we all have. This is not a limiting list, meaning that there is more to the list that is not listed anywhere. And I'm going to probably go out on a slight limb here and make the statement that any gift we have, whether spiritual or not, whether listed here or not, is a gift from God. And every gift we have can be used for spiritual means if we allow God to let us use this as a spiritual gift. So let's take, for example, my gift of playing video games. I don't even have a gift of being really good at video games. I just have a gift of playing and enjoying video games. Now, it seems like that's a purely personal gift. I can't possibly use it for, anything other than to entertain myself. Like my ability to read or my ability to watch movies. It's purely for entertainment value. And yet, when my mind was open enough, I got inspired to start doing these lessons while walking around a beautiful area of Victorian London as Evie in a game called Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So, yes, it's surprising. Whatever gifts we have, if we're open to the Spirit, can be used for spiritual things. And we just have to be open to the Spirit, and yes, we can ask the Lord, how can, what can I do to help? What can I do to be more spiritual, to share my gifts with others, to share my spirituality with others? And, we may not get an immediate answer, but an answer will come. And you may be surprised. I was very surprised that I'm suddenly doing a Sunday school lesson in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. It is a very surprising thing to do. So yeah, gifts are everywhere. Whatever talent or gifts we have, it can be used for the purpose of God, but it also can be used for the opposite. It can be used to profane God. It can be used to do terrible things. And we are given the great gift of having the choice. We can choose to use our gifts for good or for evil. So, the question always comes back to, what are you going to do? And I'll leave that subject just at that. What are you going to do? In fact, that's the challenge. What are you going to do with your gifts? The challenge of the week is to do that and to, ask of God, what spiritual purpose can my gifts be used for? And when you get the answer, follow it. That's the challenge of the week. So the final thing that Paul talked about that I want to talk about with this, and I just want to add here, I do go through a lot of the stuff that's in these scriptures, but there's a lot I skip over for one reason or another, mostly because I don't have enough space or time to cover every single thing. So I go with what's written in the lesson, and I prioritize a few things, the things that seem important to me. I will also, either add or focus on more. So the final thing I wanted to get into was Paul's comparison of basically being spiritual, of going to church, of doing all that stuff, to running a race. And running a race is hard. I'm going to take it a bit further. A long distance race, like a marathon. Now, the whole point of pretty much every marathon runner will tell you the point really isn't to win. Although, yes, you get a lot of accolades for winning. The point, and the thing that is most respected by people, is not if you win the race or not. It's if you finish the race. It's can you keep up, can you keep going? And if you quit, there's no blame, there's nothing attached to you. But if you do finish the race, you get praise just for finishing the race. Even if you're dead last, you still finish the race. And that's kind of how spiritual things work. We don't have to be the most spiritual as quickly as possible. We just have to be spiritual, go at our own pace, learn the lessons, and this is an important bit, persevere until the end. Just keep going in our spirituality. Don't run all out for a little while and then stop. I've met people who would, get converted, start coming to church, and for year and a half maybe, they would be like the most, they would just be the most intense members. They would be constantly advocating, constantly, you need something done, you go to them, it'll get done. They'll do everything. And that, they have that sort of enthusiasm, that sort of love for the scriptures for a year and a half, and then almost, and it seems very quickly to me, but I'm sure it's a much slower process, but they just stop coming to church, stop being so enthusiastic about it. So they will just sprint as hard as they can for a little while, and then they'll stop and leave. That's not the best way to run a race. Best way is to take it at your pace, do what you're most comfortable with. If you're asked or called to do something, by all means, do it. You won't be asked to do something that is beyond your abilities. But just keep doing it and keep going. And that's really how you complete the race. Not to win, but to complete it and to enjoy it. So, anyway, we'll give a lovely view of Buckingham Palace right in the middle of the dancing area here. That's the Sunday school lesson. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe if you like this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.